headline swept across social media in the summer of 2026, claiming that Prince Edward had stunned the royal household by forcing Camilla out of a Windsor residence and handing the property directly to his daughter. It arrived with the kind of confidence that makes people stop scrolling, the kind of certainty that suggests inside knowledge nobody else has. But before diving into what actually happened behind the walls of Windsor, it is worth pausing to ask a simple question. Where did this story come from? And does it match anything that has ever been documented by royal correspondents, biographers, or official channels? The answer is more complicated, more human, and ultimately more revealing than the headline suggests, because it forces us to look closely at how rumors about the British royal family are born, how they travel, and how they sometimes eclipse the quieter, more measured truth of what is really happening inside one of the most scrutinized families on earth. To understand why a claim like this can spread so quickly, it helps to understand who Prince Edward actually is within the modern monarchy. Edward, now the Duke of Edinburgh, following the title's revival for him on his birthday in 2023, has spent decades as one of the more understated members of the royal family. Unlike his siblings Charles and Anne, Edward largely avoided the tabloid storms of the 1990s, choosing instead a quieter path that included a career in television production before settling into a more traditional royal role alongside his wife, Sophie. Royal historians, including biographer Penny Junor, have long noted that Edward and Sophie built their public image around steadiness rather than spectacle, which makes the idea of Edward orchestrating a dramatic, headline-grabbing eviction feel inconsistent with decades of public behavior. That inconsistency alone should give any careful viewer pause. The residence at the center of this claim is often referred to loosely as Windsor Lodge, but no verified royal property records identify a location by that exact name currently occupied by Camilla and subsequently transferred to Lady Louise Windsor, Edward and Sophie's daughter. What does exist, and what has been extensively documented, is a very different and far less dramatic web of property arrangements within the Windsor estate. Bagshot Park, a 19th century mansion set within the wider Windsor estate, has been the actual family home of Prince Edward, Sophie, and their two children, Lady Louise and James, Earl of Wessex, since 1998. It is a property Edward has occupied under a long-term lease in the Crown Estate, not a residence he shares with or could unilaterally seize from Camilla. Camilla's own residential history tells a separate and well-documented story. Before her marriage to King Charles in 2005, she lived primarily at Ray Mill House in Wiltshire, a private property she purchased in the 1990s that remains hers to this day and is entirely unconnected to Crown Estate or Edward household. Since becoming Queen Consort and later Queen following Charles's accession in 2022, Camilla's official residences have included Clarence House in London and quarters. Within Windsor Castle itself, space is tied directly to the monarch's household rather than to any property controlled by Prince Edward. There is no public record, no court circular entry, and no credible reporting from established royal journalists, such as Robert Hardman, Roy Nicka, or Camilla Tominey indicating any transfer of property from Camilla to Lady Louise, let alone one framed as an act of confrontation. This is not to say that questions about royal housing are without substance. In fact, the real story of property shuffling within the royal family in recent years has been genuinely newsworthy, just not in the way viral headlines often frame it. When King Charles ascended the throne, he inherited not only a crown, but an enormous portfolio of properties, and decisions about who lives where became a quiet but significant part of his broader effort to modernize and slim down the monarchy. Frogmore Cottage, on the Windsor estate, became one of the most talked about examples of this shift. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle had renovated the property using public funds before relocating to the United States, and reports throughout 2023 and 2024, confirmed by outlets including the BBC and reported on by Hardman in his biography of Charles, indicated that the couple eventually vacated the property, with Harry later repaying the renovation costs. Speculation about who might move into Frogmore Cottage afterward included various family members, but nothing concrete tying it to a dramatic confrontation involving Camilla ever materialized in verified reporting. This pattern, where a kernel of real royal housing news gets transformed into something far more sensational, is not new. The royal family has long been fertile ground for embellished narratives precisely because so much of their actual life remains private by design. Palace communications tend to be measured, Official statements are rare, and journalists granted genuine access operate under strict protocols. Into that vacuum of confirmed detail, speculation rushes in and speculation sells. Royal commentator Jenny Bond has spoken publicly about how quickly unverified claims about the family can circulate precisely because so little official confirmation exists to counter them quickly. The Edward and Camilla story fits this pattern almost perfectly. A plausible-sounding scenario built around real people and real properties, stitched together without any actual evidentiary thread connecting the pieces. It's also worth considering Lady Louise Windsor's own public trajectory, since she sits at the center of this claim as its supposed beneficiary. Louise has deliberately maintained a low profile compared to more prominent royals like Princess Charlotte or Prince George. She attended the University of St. Andrews, studying English, and has been seen taking on a growing number of official engagements in recent years, often carriage driving in tribute to her grandfather Prince Philip's passion for the sport, a connection well documented by royal biographers covering Philip's final years. Louise has never publicly indicated any expectation of inheriting a specific Windsor property, nor has any credible source suggested she sought one. The idea that she would suddenly become the owner of a residence at the center of a family dispute contradicts everything publicly known about her preference for a quieter, education and service-focused royal life, following the model her parents established for both their children. There's a broader historical context that makes claims like this particularly appealing to audiences, even when they lack evidence. The British monarchy has weathered genuine family tensions that were extensively documented, from the acrimony of Charles and Diana's separation in the early 1990s to the widely reported rift between Prince William and Prince Harry that unfolded publicly through interviews, memoirs, and official statements between 2020 and 2023. Because real family conflict has occurred within this institution and has been confirmed through credible channels, audiences have developed a reasonable expectation that more drama could be lurking beneath the surface. That expectation, however reasonable it might feel, does not transform an unsubstantiated claim into fact. It simply makes fabricated stories more believable by association with genuine precedent. What actually characterizes a relationship between Edward's family and Camilla, based on available public appearances and court circulars, is a picture of routine royal cooperation rather than conflict. Edward and Sophie have appeared alongside Camilla at numerous state occasions, from trooping the color to Remembrance Sunday services at the cenotaph, presenting a united public front consistent with the institutional expectations placed on senior working royals. Sophie, in particular, has been noted by royal watchers as having developed a close working relationship with Camilla, both women taking on expanded patronages and public duties as King Charles has navigated his own health challenges since his cancer diagnosis was announced in February 2024. This cooperative dynamic, confirmed through repeated joint public appearances, stands in direct contrast to the antagonistic framing suggested by the viral claim about Windsor Lodge. None of this means the royal family is free of internal complexity. Property arrangements, inheritance expectations, and the balancing of public duty against private life remain genuinely delicate subjects within the institution, and King Charles has spoken, through authorized biographers like Hardman, about his own desire to streamline the monarchy for future generations. But streamlining is a slow, administrative, and largely undramatic process, involving trusts, leases, and crown estate negotiations rather than sudden confrontations captured in a single stunning headline. The real story of how Windsor's many properties are managed and reassigned over time is one of bureaucracy and quiet decision-making, not the kind of cinematic eviction scene that spreads so easily online. In the end, the value of examining a claim like this lies not in whether it turns out to be true or false, but in what it reveals about how we consume stories about public figures we will likely never meet. The British royal family exists as a strange intersection of intense visibility and carefully guarded privacy, and that tension creates space for narratives to flourish that feel emotionally satisfying even when they are not factually grounded. Prince Edward, Camilla, and Lady Louise Windsor each continue to occupy their well-documented, publicly verifiable roles within the monarchy, roles built through decades of service, patronage, and quiet consistency rather than sudden confrontation. Perhaps the more enduring story is not one of Edward stunning the family with a dramatic act, but of an institution that persists through its ordinary, undramatic continuity. even as headlines outside its walls insist otherwise.